What is the worst physical pain you have ever experienced? I am one of a small percentage of people who, when quickly detoxing from heroin, actually came close to dying. Alcohol and benzodiazepines are typically the two substances that kill people when they try to quit suddenly. For heroin, it just feels like you're going to die, but 99% of the time you don't. In 2011, after many attempts, I finally gave up on the stuff and hid myself away in my apartment. About 12 to 18 hours in, I got all the usual symptoms. Within about a day, I had a headache so bad, I could barely walk. About 36 hours in, the headache had turned into what I can only describe as someone taking a wide-gauge knitting needle and shoving it through the back of my skull and swishing it around my brain. I got hot white spots in my vision that would expand and contract with the pain levels, and as they expanded, I went blind. I lost a bunch of motor function, and the only thing I could do is scream bloody murder, and I actually peed myself as I crawled to the front door of my apartment. My neighbors, thinking I was being assaulted or worse, called the police, and they arrived pretty quickly, and I told them everything. I was rushed to a local hospital and went through a bunch of tests. They discovered that my brain was bleeding from acute opioid withdrawal. The silver lining to that is that it allowed me to be qualified for medical detox, which is something typically only reserved for alcohol and benzos in my area. So yeah, definitely the worst pain ever. 12 years and many struggles later, I am about 10 years free from opiates, and almost 3 from everything else. Sobriety is a gift. Tooth abscess in the early days of the pandemic. I couldn't see a dentist for 5 days. 5 days of the worst and most unrelenting pain I've ever experienced. I couldn't sleep or eat the entire time. I was losing my mind by the end of it. The day before I started first grade, I accidentally sliced a deep cut through my hand that nearly severed my pinky entirely. I didn't even register it right away because the knife cut through the nerve on that side of the hand. The worst pain wasn't the cut itself, but sticking my hand in the disinfecting solution in the ER was a feeling similar to my entire hand being set on fire. I broke my top front teeth. That wasn't the painful part. The dentist should have done a root canal on one but didn't. Fixed my teeth up to look nice, but inside, a nerve was pinched between the false tooth and real tooth. My girlfriend accidentally bumped my chin, and I bit down on that tooth. It was immediate intense pain. It was like having a car battery electrocuting my brain. She tried to comfort me by rubbing my back, but that made it worse. I couldn't let her touch me. It was like the inside if my mind became loud, like microphone feedback on a loudspeaker. I could feel the pain all the way down to my feet. I don't know how that little nerve affected me so much, but it was the most intense pain I've ever experienced. For comparison, I've been stung by cow killers and a tarantula hawk on my cheek. Those were peaches and cream compared to this. Tooth abscess? Imagine someone taking a red-hot nail and is hammering it into your gums. Each heartbeat is another hit of the hammer, and Florida will not hand out pain medication for them. You just have to suffer while antibiotics kick in over a week. This will no doubt pale in comparison to the entries here. It was gas pain. Started around 10 p.m., couldn't shake it. I tried everything, it just got worse and worse. I started having problems breathing, it was so damn painful. Every breath was like a stab wound internally. As a grown man, I was whimpering, and just debilitated. Around 2:30 a.m., my roommate brought me to the hospital, and I ended up passing gas literally outside of the hospital, and like that, I felt relief. I've broken bones before, and I've also had gas pain before, but this one time was the worst physical pain I've felt. It was like my guts were twisting and someone was stabbing them with a hot knife. I had abdominal surgery for cancer 10 years ago. There is a scar that goes from my crotch to just below my sternum where they took all my guts out, extracted the tumors, and put my guts back in. About 8 hours after surgery, pumped full of drugs, I decided to go for a walk. I used the bed control to seat myself up, used my IV dolly as support to get out of bed. Then carefully, like a bent-over geriatric, shuffled my way to the door. See, the trick was to support myself as much as possible with my lower back and keep my abdomen out of it. It worked for a few steps until the vertigo hit me. I lurched forward, and tensed. Then I felt my intestines settle, the hemispheres of my abdomen strain against the internal stitches, the two halves sort of float independently, and every layer of skin rip against the staples. I basically got to feel a nice little sample of evisceration, and there was no amount of narcotic numbness that could stop pain that deep. It wasn't fun. So I puked blood, which didn't feel nice, shuffled my way back to bed, and hit the drug button. Testicular torsion. It is as painful as it sounds. Imagine someone kicking you directly in the balls and continuing to kick you in the balls every other minute. If a doctor doesn't perform surgery within a few hours, you lose your testicle. Edit, for any guys reading, if it helps, it happens randomly and cannot really be prevented, usually to teens, but also adults. If you ever have a persistent and very sharp testicular or lower abdomen pain, seemingly out of nowhere, for me it was during a normal morning after breakfast, don't wait around more than an hour and go straight to emergency. Ingrown toenail on my big toe in high school. I was really hoping it would fix itself, so I let it get worse and worse over quite some time. Eventually went to the doctor, who said he had a great solution, showing me a piece of a pen where he cut through one side, creating a C-shaped little tube, about half a centimeter long. He grabbed my foot, held it near the nail, and before I had registered what was about to happen, he stated someone's going to scream, and jammed it on my toe, through the flesh. I was not able to sit still for an hour, and had to keep moving around or the pain would be too overwhelming. It helped and the toe healed, but never again. I have endometriosis. My pain is sometimes so bad that I will beg my husband to knock me out, or I'll punch my legs because it somehow makes it less painful in my pelvis if I inflict pain somewhere else. I've had 4 major surgeries in 10 years, and will likely need 1 more at some point. Some people think it's just painful periods, but it's not. I've been fully disabled 24/7 by the pain and other symptoms for years at a time. Because it is a female disease, no one really does much research on it, even though 10% of the female population has it. I had my hands crushed a few years ago. The bone under my pinky finger in my right hand was broke and turned black. The female doctor just had nurses hold me down and manually set it back with no painkillers. It took 20 minutes. I screamed louder than any of the times I gave birth. I wanted to punch that. Never got any pain meds for after either, and she was pissed it took so long. Never paid the bill and cut the cast off myself when it was time. Again, that broken and infected bone after hip replacement prosthesis. Had to do total hip replacement a couple of years ago. Unfortunately, one of the prostheses got infected and I had to undergo surgery again to remove it. In the process of removing it, my femoral bone got broken. I also had no joint left in there, so everything was dislocated, on top of the osteomyelitis in the bone that was already there. When I woke up, I didn't even move, and I was in tears. When they moved me into my bed, I almost passed out. It continued like that until it healed. As my muscles relaxed and contracted throughout the day, the bone moved, and I stopped breathing because of the pain. I couldn't move even to the bedside for weeks. I wouldn't wish that to my worst enemy. Shingles is when a nerve is infected by the same virus that causes chicken pox. Most people are lucky enough to get the infection closer to the skin, which produces a burning, itchy rash. I got it at the nerve root, right next to my spine, under my shoulder blade, searing waves of pain that nothing could take down. They handed me a retroviral prescription and told me to come back if it's not gone in 6 weeks. Pancreatitis. I've broken my face. Literally half my jaw broke off and was hanging in my cheek. Yes, that hurt. But it was absolutely nothing compared to pancreatitis. That's the organ that scares me and will probably be the literal death of me because mine is pretty weak. Pancreatitis is when the pancreas freaks out and leaks digestive juices that start eating your insides, and that is exactly what it feels like: crippling, crying, pleading for release type pain. It's not fun. My last baby tooth fell out when I was about 11 while at school. I remember seeing in the mirror a little white string thing dangling and just pulled it out. All I saw was a flash of white flash of light and the most intense pain for less than a fraction of a second, then gone. I got hit by a golf cart at a work tournament and got pinned between it and another golf cart. I thought for sure I had broken my leg, but I just had some ligament damage. It took me a second to realize what happened. My first thought was, did I actually just get hit by a damn golf cart? And then the pain set in. The guy driving was not intoxicated. He had never driven a golf cart before that day and didn't realize that they didn't slow down like cars do. He kept driving and he panicked. I was in the hospital when this happened. It was the middle of the night, and I woke up screaming because my heart rate was in the 230s, my whole body shaking like a fish on dry land, and the stupid face of the doctors who told me to go back to sleep and stop being dramatic. It went on for about 4 hours. I thought I was going to die all alone at 16 in a hospital, of all places, wanting and waiting for it to be over already as the doctors walked past my room not caring one bit. Now, every time I feel my heart rate go up, I get full body chills. Wouldn't wish that feeling on anybody. 32 hours labor childbirth, the baby got stuck. Epidural didn't work, they had to use forceps. I then had a hemorrhage due to a tear followed by a seizure. I needed 2 blood transfusions, 2 iron transfusions, and was taken straight to the surgery room to repair the tear. Evolution has failed women. Period cramps so severe it took me to the ER every month as a teenager. Doctors and gynecologists all confirmed that what I felt was on par to childbirth. I had to have my cycle suspended for many years. Once it came back, the pain was gone. I hate when people think period cramps are just slightly uncomfortable for everyone. I would pass out from the pain. I had to have the ambulance called many times due to it. It was not fun.